Remember when you first got your Zero Breeze Mark II and you took it out camping for the first time? You fired it up to get some much-needed relief from the scorching summer. And as soon as you got near shore power, you decided you would charge up your battery while you were running the air conditioner. Come to find out, that's impossible! And while you contemplated this new development, your wife got on her phone and checked the Zero Breeze website to confirm what you already knew. But that was then, and this is now. Introducing the Power Extension Dock for the Mark II. So here it is, the Zero Breeze Mark II Power Extension Dock. The fine folks over at Zero Breeze contacted me and asked me if I'd like to test it out and make another video. Yes, please. So this device allows you to power the Mark II off its own proprietary batteries, but also connect an external power source to the batteries to keep them charged or charge them up while you're running the air conditioner. And that external power source can be anything as long as it's supplying 24 volts DC. So you can use the included AC plug-in power brick or an external DC source as long as it's run through a 24 volt converter. So this way you can charge it up using solar panels on an RV, for example. Now, it should be noted that this works differently whether or not you have one Mark II battery or two Mark II batteries hooked up. If you only have one Mark II battery, the way it's designed, and I'll explain that, is it will extend the runtime on one battery, potentially doubling it, but the battery will ultimately die and the air conditioner will stop if running on one battery. If you have two batteries hooked up, it will keep those always topped up and power the air conditioner indefinitely as long as you have auxiliary power. So this is what it looks like hooked up. So you'll have one or both batteries plugged into there. That cable will run into the Mark II. And for this example, I'm going to simulate powering this through a vehicle's cigarette or 12-volt jack, through a 12 to 24 volt converter. So this would be just one use case where I have a lithium battery bank through a 12 24 volt converter, potentially solar panels powering up those batteries, and that way I can always have power going into the Mark II attached to its own battery. And to explain the situation with one battery and why it will ultimately die even though it's hooked up to external power, apparently Zero Breeze had designed their batteries to only accept a 5.5 amp charge current. And they told me they did this to protect a situation like this where you're using a cigarette lighter plug, someone has that plugged into their vehicle, this wouldn't pull a whole bunch of amps and blow their fuse or possibly cause really small diameter wiring to heat up inside someone's dashboard. All right, so now that I got it hooked up, let's see how all of this works together. So the battery's pulling a charge right now. It's not fully charged. It's pulling 130 watts out of my lithium battery. The air conditioner is off and the power is running through the power extension dock. So now, just to check, I'm going to run my lithium battery bank directly into the battery and see what kind of power draw I have. And that's still 130 watts. Now 130 watts divided by 13 volts is around 10 amps, and the battery can only take 5, but this is pre-12 to 24 volt converter. So I believe that's how that works. That 12 to 24 volt converter increases the voltage to 24 volts, which halves the amps down to 5 amps. Or as Zero Breeze told me, they limit it specifically to about 5.5 amps. Okay, so we're hooked back up to the power extension dock now that we've confirmed that it allows the maximum current to charge that battery. And we'll fire up the Mark II. And this is the next thing I learned about the power extension dock, is you see it's still 130 watts even with the air conditioner running. So how this is designed is the power coming in from the auxiliary power source only powers the battery. The battery then powers the air conditioner. So the air conditioner is powered by its own battery. What the power extension dock allows you to do then is trickle charge this battery from an external source while it is powering the air conditioner. And again, I believe they did that to prevent you from trying to run the air conditioner straight off of a cigarette lighter plug. And just to show you the Mark II is prioritizing the power from its own battery, I've unplugged the external source and the air conditioner is still running. Hook the external source back up, and the battery starts trickle charging again. So now I want to see what happens when the Mark II battery is full. And I noticed as it got closer and closer to 100%, the wattage just continued to decrease right up to the point where the battery became completely full, which I found out was going to take a while. So what I did was I hooked the battery up to the AC power brick, the included AC power brick, and I'm just powering the air conditioner directly from my external lithium battery. So while that battery was going, I thought I would just kick on the air conditioner directly from my Blue Eddy battery and see what kind of power draw I had so I could do some comparisons. And the power started coming up. And it maxed out around 112 watts, which is kind of low for the Mark II, but if you notice, the temperature right there is 32 degrees. It's about 50 degrees ambient in my garage. You can't see right there because of my magnificent camera work, but the included power brick says it has a maximum output of 10 amps. So that gives you enough power to charge both of the batteries through the power dock if you have two batteries hooked up, and you're using that power brick to power them. So the battery showed fully charged, so now I'm swapping it out from the included AC power brick back over to the external battery bank to power the power extension dock, and then hooking the dock back up to the Mark II. So I'm back to the cigarette lighter plug, 12 volts out through the 12 to 24 volt converter into the power extension dock, which is plugged into the battery and the Mark II. And even though the battery showed completely full, once I plugged it in, it started flashing again, and it was still taking about 37 watts, which kept working its way down until it was full again. All right, now I have 0 watts, 0 power draw coming out of the external battery, and the Mark II battery is completely full. We'll turn it on, fire up the air conditioner, and see what kind of power draw we end up getting. And that turned out to be 0. So that just confirms that the Mark II prioritizes its own battery for power, and your power won't be coming out of your auxiliary power source until that Mark II battery drops below 100%. So I turned it up to boost mode and turned the fan on all the way just to get that battery to start flashing again, to confirm what I already knew at this point, that that was going to jump up to 130 watts once those lights started flashing. So I went in the house, came back out about 10 minutes later, and that light was flashing and I was showing about 130 watts. So right now what's happening with one of the Mark II batteries hooked up is it is taking in half of the current that it needs to run the air conditioner. So this is why the estimated run time with one battery hooked up to the power extension dock is about 10 hours. The normal run time for one battery is about 5 hours. This is allowing half of its running current to come back into the battery, so that extends your run time out to about 10 hours. And these are all numbers from Zero Breeze. They're all on paper numbers and all dependent on variables and environmental conditions, battery condition, etc. And since I don't have two batteries to test, I came up with this little graphic here to show you the difference in how it operates between one Mark II battery and two Mark II batteries. So you see on the top, like we already saw, the battery can take in 5.5 amps max when you're hooked up to an auxiliary power supply, but the air conditioner is asking for 10 amps. So you have 10 amps going out, 5.5 amps going in. The battery is eventually going to die, but you've greatly extended your runtime with one battery. With two batteries below, you can see you have 5.5 amps coming into each battery, but the air conditioner is asking for 10 amps, which is only pulling in parallel 5 amps from each of the batteries. So what this means is you have more power going into this now two-battery, larger battery bank than the air conditioner is asking for. So these batteries will always stay charged, and they will charge themselves up if they are not fully charged already. Slowly, but eventually. So that is the power extension dock for the Mark II. Allows you to charge or put a charge on one or two batteries while it powers the air conditioner, and while you have an auxiliary outside power source. And then when you disconnect from that outside power source, there's no fumbling around with cables and unplugging this and plugging that thing back in. You just unplug the auxiliary power source, the air conditioner never stops running, and you go on your way.